Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. I am your host, Sean Garmer, and here with me today is Randy Isbelle.
I'm here, so that guess what we're going to talk about?
Yes, we're going to talk about a lot of bad news, apparently.
Yeah.
So, as Randy always gets the crappy deal of layoffs, and big layoffs this time with Bungie laying off people, possibly restructuring more under Sony than they were before, losing their autonomy possibly as well. Losing a game they were making. Game Informer also closed, which is bad news on the other side of things, closer to my side of things. And Randy's too. He's just in a different department. And we do have games to talk about. We both played Supermarket Simulator and we're both hooked on it. So at least we have a game to talk about that's not that. More EA College Football 25, stuff about Xbox consoles. What's new with that? Or I guess what's old with that, because it's the same thing every time. But we'll get into all that stuff and more right after this.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get this stuff out of the way here and do the housekeeping. If this is your first time listening, 100th time listening, we do appreciate you. Just letting you know, Mark is not here because he had to go last minute, go help his mom with stuff. And she lives kind of far away. So Randy is nice enough to, cover and fill in here. And you can always check him out, and sometimes me and a few of our other friends over at Bad Brackets. So go watch Randy on YouTube. Go subscribe over there. It's a really fun show. If you like March Madness, you don't have to like sports. We've done a lot of video game ones over there, or anything really. They've done all kinds of things.
Yeah, we try to mix it up, whether it's food or TV or sports or video games. We debate it all, and in the end, it's just everyone gets mad at me at first, and then they get mad at each other throughout the show, and they forget I exist. So it works out really good.
Yeah, it's fun just seeing folks just get mad at each other, and then get mad at Randy because he picked the thing that made everybody mad. So,
Summer Olympics was the one that just came out today.
Yeah,
I have another version of that episode if the way of the world loosens back up and people don't get so upset about edgy jokes, because Robert Taylor had some zingers that I had to cut. Let's just say that episode's about twice as long, because we got into some hilarious conversations that are not okay to put on the internet.
Oh, well, there you go. Definitely got to go. Maybe check it out for the juicy stuff.
Right.
So also, if you subscribe to the on our side of things on the WTM Network, you will not only get what we do here with the video games, which definitely you should watch for the video game stuff. But if you prefer your anime, we got you covered there with Otaku Cafe. Pretty much anything involving the new anime stuff or news with anime or whatever, they will cover it. And you'll get your fill there with that. And also on the movies, entertainment, TV side, Relative Broadcasting do a great job over there. They got their Deadpool Wolverine review, which I did see that last week, and it's great. Not going to go much further into that. And then they've got other reviews as well for things. Pretty much anytime there's a new movie that comes out that's a fair note, they have the review out the next week. So definitely want to go check them out for that kind of thing. But all right, that's enough with the promoting. Let's go into, you also listen on podcasts. Should have also mentioned that as well. If you don't like watching on video, there's still some of y'all dinosaurs that are stuck on, don't want to get on YouTube and watch your thing. You can listen on podcasts, which, you know what? I bought premium because I got tired of the ads. And also it's a better music service than Spotify for like the same price. You can get everything Spotify has plus YouTube premium. It's like a steal basically. So yeah, I got that. So it's a podcast thing for me too, not just a video thing now, but I get, $13 is not cheap for everybody at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on here, let's start with some like good stuff first. Let's get into the sad stuff in a little bit, because there's plenty of that in this episode. And I know some of y'all watching probably want to hear us talk about the Bungie stuff, but let's get into the nice stuff here. Just really quick before we get into our games we're talking about. If you want some free games, or if you have PlayStation Plus, I guess if you keep being subscribed, starting tomorrow or August 6th, whenever you're listening to this, you can go pick up Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Isn't that? I think that was like last year.
Last year, or the year before.
And then also the year a couple years ago, a game, I don't know if you played it yet, Randy, but it's up your alley. It's a Metroidvania, Ender Lily's Quietest of the Nights. You can check that out as well. It's a pretty good indie Metroidvania, and they're making a second one also. So must have done decently enough to warrant a second game. So those are available as of August 6th, and of course, get the ones from last month if you haven't gotten them yet before that ends. So let's talk about games we've been playing here. Both of us. So this game came out. It's in early access, to be fair. It's only on Steam. It was on the phones originally, and I think once they put it on early access on Steam, they removed it from the phone in order to get people to buy it on Steam. I'm assuming $13. It's really not that bad, honestly. Go get, like I said, a subscription for one of those streaming services for a month. You get Supermarket Simulator, probably much more fun. So you're the one that got me hooked on this. I wasn't thinking I'm playing anything else, and I normally don't see, but this one happened to work with my laptop and work decently. So I was like, okay, let's stick with this here. So what made you want to play the game, and then what's your experience with it so far?
Honestly, I don't watch like Markiplier or those kind of streamers as much anymore.
Right.
I mean, obviously I try to support them here and there, and kind of watch videos from time to time. And sometimes I'll just play a series that catches my eye. And Supermarket Simulator, he started playing a week or two ago, maybe a couple more weeks than that. I watched it last week and just kind of got hooked on all the craziness. I like all of the weird management stuff that you have to do, and those kind of games, for whatever reason, every so often I'll get hooked on. Like Power Wash Simulator absolutely got me hooked last year, and obviously that game's been out for a while, and there's just games that hook me for whatever reason. And I watched him do it, and then I watched somebody who was way more advanced do it, and saw the potential of how wild this game could get, and went, all right, I have to try it out. I will say real quick, yes, it is only on Steam. There are copycats on PlayStation. Luckily, the reviews were so bad that I didn't get tricked into buying them.
Yeah, I saw that too. Be careful. There on the phones, there's also copycats too. Be careful to get the wrong one.
Like you said, it's a early access game, and it definitely has its bugs, especially if you have stalkers. They seem to get stuck all the time. Best way I've learned to fix that is just save and quit and come back. Usually the next day they will kind of fix themselves or whatever. But there's a lot of times where your stalker guy just gives up and just hangs out in the warehouse because he doesn't know what he's doing. There's other ways to fix it, but that's just the best way I've learned how to do it. But no, it's just so much fun. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I don't even have to do the cashier stuff. I still will from time to time, just because it's kind of fun to do. But it has so much more expansion than you really think, and they're just going to continue to add stuff to it. It's a wonderful time waster game. If you would love to listen to this show or watch the show on YouTube or any other podcast stuff or watch a movie, this is the perfect game just to kind of semi-focus on and just waste hours, which I don't have that time to waste, but boy, have I found time. I've given up sleep for this stupid game.
Yeah, I've heard that it's not so it gets strenuous when you get to the later part where it's fully expanded and all that stuff. Because I think I saw some people that you can't ever fully automate it, right? Like you have to be looking at it, you have to be doing something. So I think that's what I saw some people complain about, that like I really do want it to be like a game that I can kind of just press a button and just watch it if I want to, and watch a movie or whatever when it gets to those later levels where there's a lot of stuff going on. But you're right about at the beginning when you have a small set of things to do, it is something you can kind of like have something on in the background and kind of like just, okay, I'm going to manage it. I'm going to do this. And I don't know if it's going to get more realistic as they keep adding things onto it. Cause like right now you can just hit the E button to close the register and basically they'll just sit there and they don't ever seem to like leave. It doesn't matter what time it is.
Right.
And you can go do other stuff while you do that. You can also hit escape and just hit and like just have it go on pause completely. But the one thing I found interesting is that I think right now, at least, I'm not sure if that's something they're going to change later, but it doesn't seem like even if you have like frozen stuff or freezer stuff, you know, the stuff that goes in the fridge, like it doesn't go bad if it sits there outside.
Thank God.
So yeah, thank God for that. Cause there's times where I'm like, yo, this will not fit in here. And I don't have another way to get it to work. But it's like a really fun game. Like I'm not a big simulator person at all. I don't play those kind of games. But this game, probably also because I have a lot of experience with working in grocery store kind of thing too. So it kind of like piqued my interest. But yeah, I just found it fun, and it's something like I'm gradually like I'm getting it. Even if somebody who doesn't play PC games, I was really slow at first. Then I'm like, okay, I'm getting how quickly you can, and you have to do exact change sometimes and do all this stuff with the credit card and all that. So it's like
no mini games and
it's
just mindless fun. You can really get in depth with it, which I love. And again, they're going to continue to add stuff to it. And again, it's $12, $13. So it doesn't break the bank to give it a try. If this is kind of up your alley, there's just those moments in this game that I absolutely love where it's like, I go crazy on the stocking. Like you upgrade the storage area or whatever. So you have new space. So you go crazy. You've got some money to blow and you're just like, all right, I'm going to buy like 2 boxes of everything. And then you go out to the front and there's just boxes everywhere. And the cars are just driving through them. And it's just being completely silly at that point. That's always fun. I've gotten to the point now where I have like toilet paper, and I joked with a buddy of mine who's also hooked on this game now that I swear I figured out where this game chronologically lands as far as if we're trying to place it on a timeline. And this is March 2020. It's right before COVID and everyone's freaking out about toilet paper. I cannot keep toilet paper stocked. It takes up a lot of room. And it seems like every time I feel like, all right, I have a ton in storage, I look over and everything's empty. Like just toilet paper gets bought a lot. But it's fun. It's a silly game. It will not end up on a lot of Game of the Year lists, but it's going to end up probably as one of my top played games this year, hour-wise.
I mean, it does seem to be like the one that's kind of getting traction as the streamer game.
Yeah.
Right now, like you said. So, I mean, that's probably, I would say, helping it at this point. And I mean, that's cool too. If you can get any kind of traction that way. Another thing too is like, I feel like I had to go in and research like how much convenience stores usually overprice things, so I can start making money. Because I was like, I'm gonna try to be like price conscious and be nice to the people. And I'm like, yo, every day is like a struggle to just order something. And I'm like, you know what? Forget it. This is not a real game. I'm just gonna start, with jacking up stuff. And so, it's a fun, like, just being able to kind of figure out how you want to play and, do it on your own time for that. So
for sure.
Well, I know you also played a game that, I've talked about a few times on here already the last couple of weeks, EA College Football 25. Yes. You had a few things. You didn't rate it as highly as I did. You had more problems with it. Like, so why do you think it's not a great game? You said it's a good game.
It's a good game. But it feels great because we haven't had it in 11 years. And I think that's the deal. And I will not say EA cut corners, but there's a lot more Madden in this than I think a lot of people want to admit to. The gameplay is very Madden-esque in ways. I think it helps that everything's spread out. Obviously, in college football, the hash marks are spread out more, so the players are spread out. I do love always where the people are like, oh my God, the offensive line is Swiss cheese. Well, it's supposed to be. These are college kids. It's not going to be fantastic. That's not a gameplay issue. That's just, a skill level difference between college and pros. To me, that's fine. But I just feel like this is a good start. Like, if they can continue to build and focus on the things that matter and not the stupid Ultimate Team stuff, which they half-assed, thank God. It was like they throw it in because you have to throw it into a sports game these days, but it didn't seem like they put a lot of effort into it. But as long as they focus on Road to Glory and the franchise modes and continue to tweak recruiting a little bit and continue to get the FCS teams in there would be fantastic. As somebody that covers an FCS team for my actual job, it would be nice to be able to have those teams back in like they used to, but you can't ask for everything on the first go around. So that's where I'm at. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm still playing the game. I don't play it online because I don't want to get murdered. I'm not that good. But I just feel like this was a good start. And if everybody just goes crazy about it and goes, oh my God, this is amazing, then this is the level of gameplay you're going to get for the rest of the time. Like, EA is going to go, all right, this is it? Cool. Let's now prioritize Ultimate Team and make all of the money. And there are definitely tweaks gameplay-wise, franchise-wise. I would like to see some more iteration into the Road to Glory stuff with the non-field stuff to make that a little bit more interesting outside of the training and stuff. Just I remember the old games where you actually had to take silly quizzes to work on your GPA instead of hit stuff. So there's different goofy things that they can do. This is nowhere near a bad game. Me personally, played it and went, so glad it's back. I can't wait for 3 years when it's really, really good. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's the thing is you're buying this out of nostalgia of not having to have this game in a while. I mean, it is still cool that they got all 134 FPS schools in here. I thought there was going to be schools missing. I thought they were going to do something like you see with the EA Sports FC, where some of the schools won't they'll sign deals with something else, so they're going to be called something else that they're even in the game at all. So the fact that they got them all in there, they got the NIL stuff in there, they got the naming stuff in there. I think it also hurts that Team Builder is not what it used to be, right? Where you can't completely just make a team and change whatever you want on it and all that stuff. But there's a lot of people complaining about that like if you can't add in the rosters, you can't export them to Madden, so that hurts.
A lot of that, I know you've talked about it on the show over the last couple of weeks as well. A lot of that is NIL based.
Yeah,
like there are concessions you have to make,
right,
with the way that everything works now to even have this kind of game.
Yeah.
So yes, you cannot import rosters because the whole point is players would get upset because they were in this game but not getting paid. So there are players out there that said, no, I don't want my $600. Do not put me in your game. And then people will go in there and put the name in and go, look, EA put him in the game. And then you have issues. So that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. It would be cool to be able to import to Madden, but then you have to pay them twice because they could possibly be both in the NCAA game and the Madden game. So financially, that could be an issue as well. So there are things that we just have to go, you know what, this is not going to be how it was in 2014, and everything's fine. As far as Team Builder, it's a lot like the franchise mode and Road to Glory. It's fine for now. Everyone that's super upset needs to calm down because at least they have it, and now they can build off of it for the next couple of years. But it is not 100% perfect, and hopefully EA does not just go, all right, it's there. It's the same thing. I think the biggest issue I've had, and again, it's just talking out of both sides of my mouth because it's something they now have the base for. Now they can grow. Commentary is garbage. Commentary is so bad because all they've been able to do is record the basic stuff.
Yeah.
Now that
I
they
do
have a
like
lot of
the Reese Davis team is way better than the
for sure.
Kirk Street team or whatever.
But the
But
main
yeah.
thing is they've only been able, I mean, the amount of lines you have to record just to have the
Oh
basic
yeah.
lines down is insane. So in a couple of years, they won't have to go back and record most of those.
Right.
They're now set, and now you can start getting into the little one-liners that they put in there about my thing is, if the same thing, I play MLB The Show all the time, and once you've played it for a couple of games, you're like, all right, the commentary can go on mute because it's basically the same stuff. But
Yeah.
it's like it's literally one line for every school. Like it starts the show, oh, look at the pageantry, look at this school, it's great. And then the very next game, it's the exact same line. Like, so
Oh yeah, there's not a lot of change in any of that stuff either.
So hopefully over the next couple of years, they can build off this commentary stuff and have more dynamic differences in those. But again, it's a great start, but it's just a good football game. But I'm with you. I'm so glad it's back. Hopefully they take a couple steps forward next year, and we go from there.
And it is fun mostly, man, to play.
Oh yeah.
I never have a not fun time with that game. That they nailed the gameplay, and that was the most important part.
Yeah.
At the end of the
As
day,
long as you don't take it seriously, there are some weird ass things that happen in that game. I've had some weird tips that go crazy, or players do some weird stuff. As long as you just go, it's a video game. I'm not doing this for a job. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, pursuit angles definitely need to get. Like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I get it. It's college. They really should feel like you're going to have a big play all the time. But sometimes I'm just like, dude, really? You couldn't catch up to him? You're right there.
The amount of Bo Jackson clips I've seen online where they can run from end zone to end zone because the pursuit angles are broken. But again, as long as you're having fun, I don't care.
Exactly. That's the point. Anything else have you played anything else?
Honestly, nothing other than MLB The Show, which we don't need to talk about because I continue to play that. It's really been a dry period, not because, I mean, obviously the list of games are not way up there of the must play games, but even the ones that are kind of must play, I'm kind of in a transition personally. We just bought a house, just got married, just got a new job. So a lot of the free time has been working outside and working on our backyard. And it's just, it's one of those things, not to say I don't want to play some of these games that have come out, but it's just that you get in those time periods or whatever, or stages in your life where you sit down and you go, all right, I want to play a game. And you just go to the comfort food, which right now for me is MLB The Show. It's college football. Now it's Supermarket Simulator. It's like, I'm still playing as many, like putting in the same amount of time in video games, but it's not, I don't want to dive into a story. I don't want to get into something. Like there's been so many games I've downloaded, like, all right, I'm going to get into this. And then I sit down and go, or I could just play a game of college football. So
yeah, it's a lot easier, right? Well, sometimes you only got that like 1 hour and you're like, oh, do I want to really start this thing? And then if I get hooked, I can't keep playing. And, every time I hear a review of, it's on, I mentioned it because it's on Game Pass, Kinetsugami, Path of the Goddess, a game that I think a lot of people didn't think much of. They thought it was just like the thing that Capcom threw a bone to, that, oh, it's the indie type of thing that Capcom did, and they put it on Game Pass knowing it wasn't going to do well. And it's like, it's the thing that's been talked about constantly as the like, oh, this is the game you need to play that's on Game Pass right now. Over Flintlock and Dungeons of Hinterberg, they probably had a little more press. So and I'm sitting there going, okay, I played the demo, I liked it, I want to start it, and then I'm like, let me go find something else because I don't want to get into that, and I know I'm going to be like hours and hours. So, but yeah, I think that's going to do it for us talking about the actual games we played. Before we get into the sour stuff, one more. I know you're a big Star Wars fan, Randy. I mean, there's a game coming out at the end of this month. It's been kind of highly, big time hyped. Star Wars Outlaws. They've now revealed the DLC roadmap, and of course, We already knew about the one that has the Jabba the Hutt DLC that you can only get if you get the season pass or the premium version or whatever, which made everybody upset, which is understandable. You don't want things locked away in higher price tiers, but they got to give you, I guess, a reason to go buy that. They've also, just revealed that there's going to be other stuff in here. So it looks like 3 pieces of DLC is what they've announced so far. So like it's going to be part of that season pass. Wild Card is the first one. They're going to get involved in some kind of tournament with Sabak where you cross paths with him. And, you're going to figure out what's going on with that. Hunter's Legacy and the Cartel of Ronin. You get a bunch of cosmetic bundles along with, this is the first story expansion. So, there's going to be a story expansion with Kay and crew. And then the second story expansion called Pirate's Fortune. So does that entice you more that that you're going to get more content along with the base game, or
no?
Kind of
for me personally, no. I'm sure I've talked about it on this show before, but me and DLC don't get along. So I have nothing against DLC. It's good to get the more longevity for your game. But the amount of times where a DLC comes out and I go, oh yeah, I'm going to get back into this, and I just don't. It's just so many times a DLC just goes off to the wayside for me, and I don't play it. So it's great that they have a roadmap and they want to continue to add to this. But for single player games, it doesn't bother me either way. I just hope this game is good. I know that more and more people are getting more hands-on time with it, which to me always kind of shifts to a way of saying that the developers really believe in their product and they want to get it out there, and they're not hiding it behind closed doors hoping that the review scores don't come out before their game comes out. But this is definitely on that edge of maybe this is the game that gets me back out of my comfort game zone and gets back into the story-based games. There's a couple others that are coming out here soon that might also do that. But I have high hopes for this game, and hopefully the DLC will help build its sales and stuff. But for me personally, I know myself, and I'll forget about these DLCs when they come out.
Yeah, I've already, because it's a Ubisoft game, and because, hey, you know what? They have this thing. They want us to use it. They're not shy about telling us that we should subscribe to it. I'm just going to get it on the 1 month of it on the Ubisoft Plus thing. Just see how it goes, if I like it. Because, open world games for me are kind of like hit and miss. Some of them I really like. A lot of them I don't. So we'll see how it goes with this. Just because it's Star Wars, I want to try it out. But yeah, I'm hoping it's a good one too, because it's a different Star Wars game, right? It's not Jedi related. It's not Battlefront or whatever. It's its own thing, and I like the fact that they allowed them to have their own kind of Star Wars game in that universe. So, but all right, enough kind of avoiding the inevitable, I guess here. Let's start with the one that kind of probably affects us more as gamers, and also folks that do the journalism side, or have done it or do it. And you do it with sports now. Game Informer, after 33 years, closes down. A lot of folks first kind of, not ours, I think both of us are in the generation where there's other ones like Nintendo Power and EGM and that kind of thing. But beyond us, a lot of people's first introduction to gaming magazines and what it's like to have that like inspiration for gaming journalism. I remember going to GameStop, and the first time that was ever a thing I snatched up that pro card really fast because I wanted that Game Informer magazine. I wanted to be able to know I was going to get those 12 issues and read that stuff and know whether it was Andy McNamara or further along, all the great writers and journalists that have come out of that publication. And then, of course, obviously when websites are a bigger thing, and they went on to doing more about the website than about the magazine. But it's amazing that all these years they've kept the magazine around. They didn't just kill it and make it all about the website. But I was worried when they decided to unhook it from, it's not that it was unhooked from it, but they started trying to promote their own thing of like, oh, you don't have to be part of GameStop in order to, even though GameStop owns them, you don't have to be part of the GameStop Pro Card thing. You can get it by itself, which is funny because now they're basically giving away that. I went and bought I bought the Steam gift card with because I have a GameStop credit card.
Mhm.
If you use the GameStop credit card to buy anything online, they will give away a pro subscription to you. It used to be that was the real reason you were getting the pro subscription, was not only because of the discounts and all that kind of stuff. It was Game Informer, right? That was the main draw. Then they unhooked it from that. They made it its own thing because there's a lot of people that didn't want to give GameStop money, understandably, especially now that Ryan Cohen he's the CEO, is being sued by Bed Bath & Beyond for insider trading. It would be by the government for that, whatever. But the whole point is, it's a terrible thing to see Game Informer go down. GameStop's still around, but like one of the few nice things or good things when you associate the name GameStop was this, and now it's gone. Do you have any memories of having a Game Informer magazine at all, or
not the physical magazine? Like I obviously I go to the website and stuff, right, and that's where I know Game Informer. But I obviously watching Kind of Funny and all these other podcasts talk about them getting shut down. I went kind of through my whatever memory banks still work in my old brain of getting Game Informer, and I honestly don't remember ever getting a physical copy of that magazine. I was a GamePro kid growing up, and I'm sure I bought some Game Informers throughout the years, just buying different things, just trying out different magazines. But GamePro, when we were younger, and physical magazines were the thing, that was more of my jam. But the fact that it was still going around as a physical release in some form for GameStop was fantastic. And it was just kind of holding on to our childhood and having those physical magazines. And it was crazy to hear when they were shutting down how small that crew was that was putting all of that together on top of all the internet stuff. So the fact that you got to imagine how many hours they put in just to put in the best product that they can, and you feel bad for them. And hopefully they can get back on their feet and stuff. But the thing that surprises me more than anything is that they shut everything down. Like, I'm not surprised that they shut down the physical magazine portion, because yes, they were trying everything they could with it being tied to GameStop and then not tied to GameStop to try to get it out to more people. Listen, physical media just doesn't work anymore. I work in the newspaper business. All right. There is a newspaper in our area that just shut down last week. Right. It happens. Right. One of our sister papers that we put together for another area just moved to just 2 days a week of physical copies, and everything else is online. Like, things are waning down on all aspects of physical media. So that part doesn't surprise me, but like, the website had to have still been doing okay, or the website could have done even better if you focused all of that energy on the website. Instead, they shut it down on some stupid static screen and not even allow you to see the past. And that pisses me off more than anything. And the funny thing is, when we were talking about the games that we were playing, I instinctively, every time I'm on this show, look up the video game release calendar just to kind of see what else is coming out for the stuff that we can have a conversation with. I go to Game Informer for that every single time, and instinctively went to that website, which obviously just goes to the static screen, and it just kind of put a hole in your heart, because again, I visit that website. The fact that they had to shut that down too absolutely sucks. And I mean, listen, this is a even smaller group that does that stuff for W2M, and trying to get your feet on the ground. I used to be part of this, and now I'm just kind of here to help when needed. But it's extremely difficult out there, and now that the big guys continue to kind of fall off, it's a scary world for this kind of business. That's for sure.
Yeah, man, it's absolutely, and that's what frustrated me the most, right? Because as somebody that when you write for a website, even if you don't write there anymore, you want to be able to go back and find your stuff, right? That you wrote. You want to be able to say, look, hey, so and so, hey, both of us have children. hey, look, here's this thing I wrote way back before you were
Yeah.
born or whatever, like it shows you all. It's something you always tell people, but it's like more and more the thing. Back up your stuff, man. And it's insane that this is a company. This is GameStop. GameStop is still existing. It's not going anywhere, like at least not for now. It may go somewhere in a few years. We don't know. They continue to not be able to accommodate to the current situation where most people are buying games digitally, and you have to like pray and hope that there's a new console or pro edition of a console to come out so people will go to your store, at least for gaming stuff, So like literally the last time I went to a GameStop was to buy a hoodie that she wanted that for her birthday that had Sonic on it. It had something to do with games, but I'm not buying an actual game. Right. So most of my stuff that I do with GameStop is to buy stuff online. I don't even go into the store. So and that's a lot of people's thing with GameStop is if you go into GameStop, you're not buying games there. You're buying like Funko Pops and other stuff that has nothing to do with them. And it's soulless. A lot of it's soulless, and it feels like that. And then this thing that they put up that, as Ben Hansen rightly pointed out, former big time person at Game Informer, now does MinMax with a bunch of former Game Informer folks as well. He said this is probably written by AI, and I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Like the fact that you couldn't even have somebody from the staff write this and like put out something more heartfelt that felt like you cared about these people. Like it's GameStop's whole MO. We don't care. We just want to sell you this thing and make money. And it sucks because it's like, these are real people that were working on a skeleton crew, working 70-hour work weeks at a paper with such a magazine that was 70% done the last issue. They didn't even get to put that out. And then a website and video, because the YouTube channel's still up there, but who knows if they're going to take that down.
Oh, they will.
Especially the YouTube channel. Go get videos off of there. Do what you got to do because they make great video content as well. That's something they were doing a great job of too. They were branching out to video. They were doing a podcast. They had a lot of things going on. Alex Van Aken was probably like the spearhead with that too, and Brian Shea, he also did the Nintendo podcast for them. Like it sucks because I don't know any of those people personally, like none of them are my friends, but I see them. I have, in journalist groups, and when you see them talking, and all of a sudden to see everyone that has been a part of Game Informer, did anything for Game Informer freelance wise, or still work the Game Informer, all of a sudden a collective like screw you to GameStop to just kind of kill that magazine like that and the website and everything, and not to let them even give them, like, you couldn't give them a couple of days notice, a week notice to like get all their stuff off of there,
or at least say, hey, the last magazine's the next magazine's the very last one, and the moment that comes out, then we're shutting everything down, and then say your goodbyes and stuff. But no, that's not how corporate things work these days. It's they finally come up with a decision and then turn off the lights right now, get out. Kind of stuff.
It's such a terrible thing, and heart goes out to all those folks that are now looking for work. It's like as if we don't have enough gaming journalists, and like as Randy mentioned, journalists in general looking for work, and then now they have to either go freelance or have to go find something else, and it's it kind of kicks this wave of what we've been talking about again. It's not just print and online stuff, as IGN bought a bunch of noteworthy gaming sites and then kind of also laid off people, and then IGN also just killed Humble Bundles games last week as well. So like we're seeing this everywhere, and then this kind of goes into the next major kind of story of Bungie, what's going on with them here with not even involving really Destiny, because Destiny 2 is doing great after the final shape released. And it's sad to hear that October 2023, so we're about 2 months away from when we would have had the 1 year anniversary of the last layoffs they did at Bungie. And now here we go, out of nowhere, more layoffs at Bungie.
Mm-hmm.
They're at least 155 of their roles are going to be integrated into Sony Active Entertainment, which, if you don't remember, Sony bought them for 3.6 billion, and then used them as a consultancy firm basically for all their other live service projects. One of them did wonderful with Helldivers 2. The rest of them seem to not be doing so hot, and Concord's the latest one that is not doing great. But they're going to lay off a big number of folks, around 200 or so. And this also includes leadership as well. Not the leader that I think a lot of people want removed, the CEO Pete Parsons. We'll get into that in a little bit. But Pete Parsons did go and write this. At least it was an AI bot that wrote some of this. But he says that they've tried tirelessly to identify roles for as many people as possible and saving a great deal of talent that would otherwise have been affected by the reduction in force. And they are going to kind of push them into other roles in Sony. And also they're going to make a new studio out of one of their incubation projects, an action game in a brand new science fantasy universe that's going to be formed within PlayStation Studios. So they're going to have PlayStation will have another studio. And this probably also means that I'm assuming Destiny will also, not Destiny, but Bungie is going to be losing a lot more of their autonomy if they haven't lost all of it, and become more of we're just another studio inside Sony now. And that kind of feels weird because the whole point of this was that they were supposed to be autonomous. They were going to be multi-platform. Marathon was going to appear on multiple systems, not just PlayStation, right? Now, what does that mean for that PlayStation Studio game? Does that mean that that's now only a Sony venture for the time being or whatever? Lots of weird things. And also, I got to bring it up, but I don't think this really makes a big a difference because honestly, what one person does with their money, regardless of what we feel about it or not, it's their decision. But Pete Parsons is coming under fire a lot for having a classic car collection that he's spending a lot of money on, instead of using that money, I guess, to give back to, their workers or invest more in.
That will never happen.
Yeah, exactly. People are not going to take their money, whether you feel like they should make that much or not. That's your own personal thing, and I understand that as well. We can have that conversation if you want. But this is the capitalist structure of the United States. And unfortunately, CEOs always are going to make way more money than us workers. It's going to happen in every single job. So, but what do you think about all this? And do you think that Sony should be wishing they didn't buy Bungie now?
I'm trying to think of the best way to answer the last part of that. Should Sony feel like they regretted buying that? No, because in the end, it's going to profit them. Now, obviously, things did not work out well for them as far as the online games went. And we talked about this many times, that the strategy was to have all these different live service games. And then The Last of Us is going to have a live service game. And this was going to have a live service game. And then it has all fallen apart. Like Helldivers worked out really well and has been fantastic. As you said, Concord has not had the best beta time, and we'll see how sales go when they go full launch. What is it, later this month, I think? But no, it's like they have Bungie now, and they're going to find a way to make it profitable. What's best for Sony. Now, if it means cutting a bunch of little men out, it's not going to affect the top guys at all. They're going to come out with their statements, and it's all going to be BS. And yes, it might actually, I don't want to be that evil and say that the people on top have no hearts. I'm sure some of these decisions are difficult, but like you said, if a decision is one less car that I can buy, or 50 people need to be cut from their jobs, they're going to cut the people, not the car. It's just how it works. They want to make sure that the business is profitable and they are getting as much money, if not more money, year after year. And unfortunately, it means cutting people. That talked about it with the Game Informer thing, and we talk about it basically in any forms of life. When companies go out and buy other companies, it can go one of two ways. Like it can be a loving relationship that really works out for both, or the top company is going to consume the other. I mean, we talked about IGN buying up all these different brands and then spitting them out. Like the parent companies of so many different video game publishers continue to do the same thing. We saw that a lot with a bunch of YouTube brands that, like Rooster Teeth bought a bunch of people, and then this company bought Rooster Teeth, and then they made them cut out all the small people there. It's like the same thing with video games. It's the more and more that you have
did it with Activision Blizzard. You know, they laid off people.
The more and more a company is owned by a company, which is owned by a company, which is owned by a company, the more down here is easy just to get laid off.
But I think the bigger thing with this is that Bungie has been basically mismanaging itself for quite a while, and Sony basically saved their asses from being worse than they are now. Like if Sony didn't buy them, they might be closing the entire Bungie studio, period. You know,
but that's usually a reason why these happen. It's they go, we're great. Oh, something went wrong and we don't know how to handle it. Please help us.
Yeah.
And then it's a lot of the times you get helped for a little bit, and then in the end, maybe the brand stays, but a lot of those people that were there are going to be no longer there. And it's rough.
Yeah, I mean, another reason why Pete Parsons has been brought up, not just because of his spending habits, which, you know, that gets brought up when you're a CEO that gets to stay there. And a lot of the decisions come down to decisions you make, right? Destiny 2 has kind of been here and there. Final Shape apparently has been amazing as far as critical reception, and then like basically like a great end to. They could technically go on and make a Destiny 3 now. Destiny 2's like story has kind of hit that final part. And it's a lot of people that have either formerly worked there or currently work there. A lot of them are former employees that are basically saying, you had Liana Rupert talk about he's a liar, a thief, and so many things you can't discuss publicly. Step down, and without the giant Sony payout, this is not on Sony. This is squarely a failure of leadership, plain and simple. Former Destiny community manager Pete is a joke. C-suite taking accountability for any of this, or still just withholding bonuses, and it'll be settled in-house. I mean, poor leadership has crushed one of the greatest developers of all time. Retire, Pete. Damn, if that isn't a damning thing from a former employee, I don't know what is. But seriously, I mean, Destiny has not been doing well. They mismanaged. They tried to make 3 games at once. So, they knew they were working on Marathon, but they were apparently working on another game called Payback, which is like a spin-off of Destiny that you could use the same characters, but you're doing something else that's not technically Destiny 2. And it's like, you can blame the stuff when they were owned by Activision as, okay, Activision is doing the Activision things, right? Where they had to make, they couldn't just keep iterating on Destiny 1. They had to make Destiny 2. They had to make physical expansions all the time. They couldn't just include it into the thing. So they spun off and became their own thing. That didn't do well enough for them. You heard about whenever they were acquired by Sony at first, they said they weren't going to be layoffs, and they were. Sony apparently had allocated a bunch of money so that they didn't have as many layoffs as they possibly could. And then here we are a second time. And it sucks to see that like all these people are losing their jobs. And yeah, some of the leadership went down with the Payback team that is apparently no longer being worked on, and some other ones in these layoffs. But the people that probably should be falling on the sword for this are not, and they're not going to. Look, this would be like saying Bobby Kotick should have resigned after the stuff that happened with Activision Blizzard. He was not going to do that. In fact, he wouldn't let, he was so ingrained in that company that the board of directors had to make sure that he went on with the Microsoft Activision Blizzard merger, or they wouldn't sign off on it. So, like, this is to tell you that a lot of y'all that get mad. Look, I'm upset too. I think all of us are upset. We want to see the person that is the reason why this has failed majorly. Take some credibility for this. And yes, he wrote this statement, and yes, he kind of said more things than normally you would say when you're talking about this happening. But he's still not taking as much of accountability as you would imagine. And again, it's like this whole thing about, listen, it is what it is, guys. Like, this guy's not going to get taken out unless Herman Holst, who's now running the studio apparently, tells him, yo, get out of here. And even then, he's probably got protections that prevent him from being fired for a certain amount of time and all that. So,
yeah, listen, I don't work in the corporate world. And if I did, I'd be at the bottom rung of whatever ladder that is. But you have to assume that cutting off the bottom rung of a ladder of a company is a lot easier than replacing the broken rung on a ladder that's in the middle. And that's just what companies are going to do. And maybe if this doesn't fix the financial issues for Bungie, maybe then they start making changes to said management. But it's so much easier to go, all right. And this is the big issue with working in gaming. From what I have seen and from what I've heard, is the most dangerous time for you is once you're done with the project.
mm-hmm.
Once you're done with the project, you're replaceable. It's like, all right, you're done with this. Bye.
Well, because you wind down automatically because you don't need that many people to just be kind of maintaining the game.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but again, like, you're trying to work on 3 projects with this number of people. You don't have enough people to be able to work on it. Why are you spinning off 3 projects?
Right.
Oh, just because you think all of them are going to make amazing amount of money? You already had problems with Destiny 2. You're making Marathon, which, okay, whatever. It's a game you used to make, and you're going to make it again to try to make it a big deal. But the problem is extraction shooters are like a dime a dozen right now, and you don't need another one. So.
Listen, they should have learned from Telltale. You get popular for one thing, doesn't mean you need to have 15 things.
Mm. But I mean, I get it. You also can't just make Destiny 2 forever unless it's like Fortnite levels where like you can. But look at that. Look how many things they have to keep adding to Fortnite to make it continue to be relevant. And that's the thing. Destiny 2, you add all the story content or whatever, but it's like, it's still not a behemoth like Final Fantasy 14 or even WoW is, where it's like, I feel like, yes, Destiny 2 has its players. Destiny 2 has its people that are diehard Destiny 2 or whatever. But I feel like if Destiny 2 went away, I'm not talking about the people that are working on Destiny 2.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the players for Destiny 2. They would just find another game to play or another shooter to play or whatever. It's like, there are so many other ones out there. Eventually, when enough people play the final shape and they get through that, what's going to happen? They're going to probably stop playing that game. And it's like, online service games as a whole are a cancer right now to the industry. And I think one of the Power community guy, which has not been, he's been very vocal about, you need to be careful about playing the same game over and over, because everybody keeps asking about, oh, was Powell the failure because they went from 2 million to 600,000 players, right? And he brings up like, yo, listen, the problem that we have right now is that too many people are playing the same game over and over every day. Yeah. And so he keeps telling people like Sony, like Jim Ryan, that we need to have 12 different live service games. And we need to, be trying to have them come out by like 2026 or whatever and rush these things out, because we need to flood the market with more of them. And then guess what happens? You're going to keep telling all these publishers that live service is the way. And so indies and single player games and all that stuff keep dying. And all we're left with is the same game that you play over and over. So he brings up a good point. And I think this once again shows like where gaming is right now, where we're trying so hard to find the next Fortnite that it's like the rest of the creativity and the great things that are about gaming are like getting kind of, they're still there. Obviously they're still there, but they're getting lost in the whole, damn, gaming is just not making enough. And we got to keep laying off and laying off and laying off. And it's like, where does that end? Where does that end?
You said something that's really interesting to me, talking about how people are only playing the one game and we have to get them to play more games. So you need to come out with more and more live service games. But what's the goal of a live service game? To be that one game that people play and continually come back to because you're continually bringing content to. Now, if a company came out with a game plan like Sony was attempting to do, where you kind of were able to, within your company, have 5 or 6 live service games, because live service games do a thing if they catch on and you're not Fortnite or Apex Legends, I guess, where you go completely wild for years. But Pal World, people are saying, well, it's not a success anymore. Yes, it was. It was the talk of the town for 2 months of a game that had zero interest going into it. But a live service games has this crazy peak, and then it settles into the normal people that they.
Helldivers 2 is going through the same thing as well.
And then you come out with your next content for your live service game, and it'll bring people back for a little bit, and then they'll die out. So if you're a Sony, and I think what their main game plan was have 6 to 10 of these games that one would hit the wave, and as it started to die down, their other game would catch the wave, and then those 6 games would then kind of have a revolving door of content, and then all 6 games would kind of go in and out. But unfortunately, that you have this idea, but then the dip happens and you're like, oh, it's dead, and you just shut the door. It's like, no, it's like you have to catch the wave of it. Your content comes out and you have like a month of just fantastic gameplay, and everyone's playing your game, and then they all move on. Like, there's so many. I don't play with my groups of friends anymore. I've gotten old. I just play my single player stuff. But the people that I know that still really focus in on online gaming and play with their group of friends, they go through waves. Like, it's Rocket League for 2 months. Still, to this day, they'll play Rocket League for a little bit, and then they'll move on to this game, and then they'll move on to this game. But unfortunately, there are some companies out there that when it's their turn, it's, oh my God, this is great. Now we're going to expand. Now we're going to create 3 more games like Bungie's talking about. It's fantastic. And then that wave of gamers move on to the next thing, and they go, shut it down. We're screwed. Instead of, all right, now you have to build to your next turn, and you have to budget wisely that you can survive the lower parts of those waves. What are games going to do next year when Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out and everyone's wave crashes down for at least 3 months because Grand Theft Auto 6 takes all of the time?
Or it may not, because Grand Theft Auto 5 online was so huge they didn't even make the DLC for it. So imagine what Grand Theft Auto 6.
Well, that's what I meant. The online version of
like,
GTA.
I mean, you're gonna have people that are just gonna play the game. That's gonna cause a shutdown. It's also gonna bring more people into gaming, which that's what they want, right? Between the Switch 2 and Grand Theft Auto 6, that's what they're hoping is gonna save gaming. And yes, it sucks that the Switch 2 did not come out this year, because they were hoping that was gonna come out this year and kind of be the big boon that. I don't know what's going on with the PS5 Pro. People were hoping that's going to be the thing, and that still hasn't even been. I guess that's either going to be Gamescom or Tokyo Game Show. We'll see. But which Gamescom is in a couple of weeks. But look, I don't want to keep beating a dead horse. I think we all know how almost anybody that I don't know. I don't know too many people. I know there are out there. I see them talking. I could probably get somebody on the show that is a huge like online gamer and loves this stuff. But most of the people that are on here with me, we're kind of feel that same kind of vibe of, it's still single player games for us. You have your multiplayer games that you play, like, the Andy Plays MLB The Show. That's a multiplayer game that's still going on. EA College Football, I'm sure is going to do great. Madden does amazing numbers online as well. So does EA Sports, FC. So yeah.
Listen, I'm 40. I know you're getting near 40. We've aged out for the most part. Our generation has aged out of the online gaming circles. There's obviously still some that go around. I don't want to paint a broad brush on our generation. But then you look at my son's generation. He's 16 years old. He doesn't play a single player game. But all he plays is Minecraft and Roblox and those style of games. And he's not getting into all of these games that are trying to take over those realms. So obviously there's a 20 plus year gap of other generations that you're trying to catch on to, and other styles of gamers. But it's a difficult world to get a live service game to come in and stick and stay long term, because there's only so many of those games that can stay on those pedestals, and most of them have been taken up, and
and
they don't
then
seem
that's
to
not
be
even
going out
including the.
anywhere.
This is why Microsoft's trying to get into which I'm going ahead and going to the next thing. This is why Microsoft's trying so hard to get into mobile gaming, because what's still around that they own now, Candy Crush, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and all the other King owned things that they now own. So like that's why they're trying so hard to get into that sector, because those are automatic money makers that they get. This is why they're trying so hard with Call of Duty, automatic money maker, right? Like, so that's what this is why we're going into that direction, which we all don't like. Us old school gamers are not big fans of it, but you can see why it's turning that way, and it is working for some folks. It's not working for everybody, and that's the thing. You're going to have a lot more misses than hits, and for every, like, my daughter likes to play Among Us and Roblox. Those are her things, and those are two concurrent multiplayer games that you got to play all the time with your friends or whatever. You can get off it and play something else or do something else. It's not this like they're also not games that you got to feel like, oh man, I lost it. If that's the problem with Destiny 2 as well, right? Is it's sort of an MMO that they don't call an MMO. Is if you stop playing for a while, guess what happens? You're out of it. You no longer can play online or whatnot. So it's like, that's an issue too. People don't have all that time to keep playing this game that goes on forever, and you lose it if you don't keep playing. So I think that by itself loses people as well. Whereas I think like something like Helldivers 2 works so well because it is a game that you can pop in with friends, play, and then you go on about your merry way, and then you can come in the next weekend and play again, whatever. But and those games don't go away. Like Fortnite, Call of Duty, all that, they keep going. Black Ops 6 is about to come out in a couple months, so that thing's gonna blow everyone out of the water again. So like, that's the thing, is there's only so much pie to go around, as our friend The Rock would say. It's something that Microsoft is also trying to get into with Game Pass, right? They're going into this subscription model. And never has it been more apparent than what's happening with their Xbox console sales, which took a 42% dip again for like they rose up during like the holiday quarter, but after that they've like flatlined basically. And all they're talking about is how much they went up in revenue for services and all that, which went up like 61%. And then their gaming revenue went up, but you got to take off like 44% of that or it's like 48%. So they'd be like down 4% if it wasn't for Activision Blizzard. But guess what? They own them now. So whether you want to take them out of the numbers or not, that's your prerogative. But they are owned by Microsoft now, so they have a right to put them into their numbers if they want to. The whole point of this is that Amy Hood went out during a Q&A session of it. She was asked, like, where do Xbox console sales factor into this? And she says that basically what they care more about is rising up in services and having games to basically further those services and keep growing those services. She doesn't really talk about that they want to continue to grow in the console space,
right?
Which is why they've introduced the Fire Stick, and they have cloud, and they've made these other Xbox Game Pass tiers, because it's all about making Game Pass grow, right? Whereas Sony and Nintendo are proving the opposite, right? Whereas they're more still about the console, and the consoles are, maybe PlayStation is not selling necessarily as much as they were at the beginning. They're eventually going to hit a plateau. The Switch has obviously hit a plateau, but that is a much older system at this point. We're older, so we come from that old school of, okay, you service the console. This is what this is for. Game Pass is kind of like, we're going more towards the movie and TV part of it, of like, hey, subscribe your thing, play your games, do whatever. Do you think that if you're a console person at this point, if you're an Xbox only console owner, like, do you worry now about, are we just going to get to the point where there's not an Xbox console at all because this just keeps going down? Or
maybe eventually, if they can get the technology to work and internet works better all over the world, where you can actually stream these games. I've said it many times because we have this conversation. It seems like every time I'm on, because they continue to bring out more and more news about it, but they want it to be able where you can stream the games off of a different console onto your TV and then play it that way. I live in an area that's absolutely impossible to do. I mean, PlayStation
Right.
does it, Xbox does it, and that's kind of what they want to do with the Fire Stick. Is like, hey, plug this in. All you need is a controller. Sign up to our subscription service, and then move on. And a lot of people bag on Microsoft for it. I'm not a Microsoft guy, but I don't, because they're trying to go in a different direction than Nintendo and Sony. And I think when right now you're in third place in this battle, that's what you need to do, is shift and then find a different avenue. They still have the consoles for those of us that want them, but they're trying to find different ways to reach people that don't want to buy this console, to be able to still get into their Game Pass subscription service and then forget they had it, and then just bring in monthly revenue every single year. Like, subscription services have just gone way off the charts as far as ridiculousness. I don't know. Again, I'm in the sports media side of things again. I don't know if you've seen the new combination sports thing that's like $43 a month. Like
Venu or whatever.
Yeah, we are surpassed. Like, we all cut cable because it got too expensive. And now all the streaming services are getting too expensive, and they've spread out so much that by the time you get the things that you want to cover the interests you have, it's because, like, we've ruined things. Like, let's go back to basic cable where it was just simple. Now we've complicated things.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where you could literally probably like lower your internet a little bit. I mean, I have a gig internet here, but I could probably like lower it to like 500. I need the gig internet for like what we do here with the streaming, all that. But like, if I lowered it enough, I could get a package where I got all of the cable channels that I need and still pay less than if I went and got YouTube TV and all this other stuff. And like, because that's the problem with like the Venu one, right? You're still missing NBC and CBS to get all your, because then you have to subscribe to their streaming services as well. So it's like, that's the problem. At least Xbox, for the gaming side of it, is a one-stop shop for Microsoft stuff and third-party stuff. And $20 a month to me is still not in the bad section of it. To get all the stuff that they get or you get with it is still not bad. The problem is when you hear things like Stalker 2 delayed. Now Avowed has been delayed to February of 2024. So far, the one game that's come out this entire year, Hellblade 2, kind of underwhelming for a lot of people. You supposedly still have Indiana Jones. We don't know if that's really going to come out this year or not. Stalker 2 supposedly going to come out in November, but that's also like they don't own that. In 3 months, it's going to go somewhere else. I forgot that Flight Simulator. That's a niche thing. That's not going to. Age of Mythology is also a niche thing. It's not going to do that. It's going to do okay, but it's not going to bring everybody here. Aura History Untold, same thing. So like, the main driver you have right now is you better hope to God Call of Duty brings people to like en masse to Game Pass. And the problem is that how many people are just going to buy the game and not even subscribe to Game Pass? So it's like,
but then you're getting $70. I mean, that's the beauty of Game Pass. Is like, well, I don't want to have Game Pass. All right, then spend $70.
Right.
Well, I don't want to spend $70. $70 is too much. All right, then subscribe to Game Pass. It's $20.
Yeah, and you can stop subscribing the next month if you don't want to pay Call of Duty anymore. So it's like,
absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things that obviously Game Pass is doing fine enough for Microsoft that they can go in this different direction and not really push console sales, and they're not pushing games out early that become buggy messes just to try to get something on Game Pass. So obviously, right, as much as it's frustrating as a gamer, business-wise, it sounds like it's doing just fine for them the way things are going now.
The big barometer is going to be that it's going to be Call of Duty. How many people can you get to subscribe with just Call of Duty, because that's going to be your main game that you're going to push people to in a couple of months. Like all this little indie stuff is nice and whatever, but it's not going to draw people to subscribe.
But then their whole thing on top of that is to try to spread things out and hopefully have enough of them where it's not spread out like it used to be with Microsoft, where it was one game every year. But where you can like have a pretty heavy hitter once a month, every 2 months, that keeps you going, all right, I have to have Game Pass because I want to try this game. I mean, that's the whole point. You live off of, I've subscribed to Game Pass and I forgot.
Right.
That's how you live.
Well, and if you're an actual, like, that's my thing again about the whole like playing one game and that's all you do. Like, Game Pass is not for the people that play one game and that's all you do. Like, it's for the people that are actually, I want to play different games, right? And I want to get, it's like Netflix. You have like your everything, and hey, I'm going to play this Kinetsugami game because it may not be my kind of game, but I have this service. Why not? Right? Yeah. That's what they're banking on as well. Right? We're paying all this money for you to, why not? And then what if they put Supermarket Simulator on there? People are gonna like go nuts and play it on. I mean, they've actually been good about getting those sim games on there a lot because they know it'll attract people to go on there. But like, that's my thing is I worry about to what point do we get to where you might as well just say you're a third party publisher and stop with this nonsense of we're still the console maker and all that stuff and stop. I mean, I know Phil has said it, but the problem is that Xbox has so much. Oh, somebody says this, and then Phil comes and says this, and then Satya says this, and then Amy Hood says this, and then watch. I'm pretty sure Phil is going to come and contradict Amy Hood in like a month and say, "Oh no, we still care about consoles and whatever." Look, they still care about the console that's coming because right now, like you said, everything Game Pass doesn't work without the console because almost everybody that's subscribed through Game Pass has it because they have an Xbox console. Because PC Game Pass, their freaking dashboard, their store sucks. Okay, most people can't stand having to use Xbox's PC Game Pass thing. So that's the problem, that you already tried to get the console person to move over to Ultimate by basically telling them that, now if you only have the console thing, you can still get your day one games, but you won't get online. So like, let's force you to move over to Ultimate or drop Game Pass, whatever. Like, let's basically say that we're just trying to improve Game Pass and we don't necessarily care so much if the console sells. Now they're Microsoft, they can afford the hit maybe, but eventually, like, does somebody go, yo, can we keep affording this hit? Can we keep just saying that it's going to pay off in the long run? Like, maybe we never get that technology, but what about the next gen after that? Are they saying that basically PlayStation's not going to have a PlayStation 7? Is that what they're banking on? That Nintendo's going to be on their own little island and then PlayStation's not going to have a PlayStation 7, so we don't have to worry about it either? Like, do you think that that's what, are we going to get to that point where PlayStation 6 and Xbox, whatever's the last one? Or?
But I don't think for Microsoft, they care what Sony systems do or if they're going to kind of go in the same route. I honestly, I think Microsoft wants Sony to continue just throwing out PlayStations and having their games stuck on a box while they're trying to do other stuff. I think they're trying. They have not hit those numbers where they can just go, screw consoles, we're done with them yet. But I think still long term, that's where they want to go. Phil Spencer has to continue to come out and say, no, we care about consoles, because if they cut the consoles out and this is the last generation, the numbers are going to take a big dip because not enough people have conformed to the PC realm or the Fire Stick realm. But that's obviously where they want things to go long term. Now, do we see another generation of Microsoft consoles? Probably, because we're not quite there yet. But in 10 years, 15 years, I think Microsoft would love to go, we're done with consoles. They're too expensive and it's too costly for us. And it's too costly because I just look into the future. This is going to be Microsoft's deal. Consoles are too costly for you. Like, for you to have to spend $600 on a PlayStation 7 or $700 on a PlayStation 7, or how wild it's going to get by then. It's like, that's too costly for you. So come to the Microsoft Game Pass family and spend $60 on a Fire Stick, and you can play all our games. You don't have to spend $700 to be able to then buy our games. You just buy this thing, and then you can play our games with our subscription service. That's where they want to get to.
Right.
Unfortunately for them, technology hasn't quite gotten to that point. But to me, I buy all these consoles, but if we get to that ecosystem where one of the three main players, and it's going to be Microsoft, says we're done with consoles, we're moving to this, then salute to them, and hopefully it works out, and hopefully I have the internet or the technology capabilities at that point to be able to play their games on whatever service they go into. And gaming changes all the time. Like, we used to be on carts. Now we're on CDs. Now we're just digitally downloading most things. Like there's so many things where a small thing will change, and we have this immediate reaction every single time of, this is the worst thing possible. And then about 6 months later, we're like, how did we ever live without this? Like, things are going to evolve,
I mean, people
are going to change.
Look, I love holding something in my hand as much as the next person. I'm like that with books still. I do not read a book off of a screen. But with games, it became a matter of convenience. It helped that we got, digital review codes and stuff like that. So it made it easier for us to start getting used to the fact that, okay, we're just going to put this code in. But it's nice that I can just press a button and here's all my games, right? I don't have to like go take the disc and put it in and take it out and make sure you put it back.
Microsoft had that thing where you could have 5 games going all at once, and you just hit a button and you resume your old game. It's like,
exactly.
They have figured out.
Yep. That will continue to be a thing for a long time. So we will. I'm sure next time Randy's on, we'll talk about it again because I'm sure we'll come up.
More layoffs. I'm sure.
The last thing here is another kind of symptom that's been happening with games is that I think we're getting to the point where we're just remastering too much stuff. We're just going into the section of everything doesn't need a remaster. And maybe perhaps this has been shown off by the fact that Braid Anniversary Edition that came out, was it not too long ago, May 14th. It's a remaster of a well-loved indie game, but it was also at a time when indie games were like indie console games were starting to be, this was Xbox Live Arcade time. This was when it was really starting to be cool to kind of be indie. But it's not like now where you have an indie all the time, right? So it's a game like now is kind of a dime a dozen, but back then this was huge. And so one of the new things is that there's a 15-hour commentary track by Jonathan Blow, the creator of the game. And he is asked in various clips that I guess span different parts of time in this, where he talks about basically he goes from I don't know anything about how much it sold to it sold horribly 34 days later to it sold decently if you compare it to Steam, Jeff Minter's game, or the Atari 50 thing, like old stuff, right? That's kind of like making it look new. But not anything based off of what you need for it to like keep the studio going. And then he keeps going saying they've been utterly terrible 68 days later. And that sounds horrid. Like, you come out with this remaster, spend a lot of time doing this remaster, and then it doesn't sell anything close to what you wanted to sell. And then you're almost like regretting even bothering making it. And it feels like it's another symptom of some people feel like, what's the point of even doing games journalism or being in games, because I'm eventually just going to get laid off, or I'm eventually going to be sitting there looking for work. I'm eventually going to be sitting there without a studio because my game didn't sell at all, because there's these forever games that keep existing and nobody buys as many games anymore or whatever. They only buy the big game. Like, what do you think may have been the issue with Braid's remaster not selling well enough? And does he have a point about like, maybe I shouldn't have done this?
Well, I didn't even know this was a thing till last week when, the news stuff came out that it did not sell well, because I didn't know it was a thing. I didn't know that it came out. Like, you got to promote the thing that you make. And that's something I always struggle with any of my projects is promoting myself or promoting Bad Brackets. Go check out Bad Bracket. But you got to be able to promote this stuff. And yes, times have changed where we don't need these kind of anniversary editions as much. It is a cash grab for companies. Hey, throw it out there, try to get some money from it. It's not a lot of work, and this will help pay for this other game we're doing. But it sounds the exact opposite for Braid, where they put in a lot of work and they did a commentary track and they did all this stuff, and they basically had to rebuild the game because I guess the assets weren't able to shift over to the new gen stuff. So they basically just rebuilt Braid. So they put a ton of work into it, but nobody knew it was a thing, and those that didn't care enough to pay for it. And
No.
that had to. It's one of those weird things. I'm far away from the actual business side of gaming, but I would like to know how much you get for putting your game on a Game Pass or a PlayStation Plus, because I think a Braid Anniversary Edition would have been fantastic to throw on one, if not both of those services, and just get the payday from Sony and Microsoft and get the name out there for your companies so you can promote the next game that you have. Like,
Yeah.
There, as you talked about at the beginning of this podcast, like, this is PlayStation Plus basically uses their 3 games a month service to kind of reinvigorate a game or get you hyped because of this game for something else that they're doing or for that company. And that's just kind of how things go. It's not a day and date thing like Microsoft. So, hey, the creator of Braid has this game that they're trying to make. Do you remember Braid? Well, they did this wonderful thing with all this new commentary stuff, and you throw it on there, and yes, you don't get as many sales, but hopefully you get a decent kickback.
But it does, it does cover some of the sales that you weren't going to get. And maybe eventually he does make a deal, especially with Microsoft, where, he did kind of start out there with the 360s. So maybe that works out for him. I hope so. I hate hearing these stories about games, but honestly, look, I do the monthly, here's what's coming out this month thing for Last Word on Gaming every month. And I can't tell you how many times I'm going through and going, oh, this is a remaster. Oh, I have no idea this game even existed.
Right.
Okay. Or a definitive edition, or like, okay, we kind of know about this because the limited run has their showcase that they do. And Mark loves the crap out of this game, Tomba, right? It got a remaster. Great.
Yeah. I have not bought it yet, but I might.
I bet people that might sell more than that might sell more than Braid. It's John. I'm getting the developer and the game confused. But there's also Star Wars Bounty Hunter Remaster is coming out the same freaking day. That's another one of those Aspire games. So take what you will, or it's already out, by the way. I'm just bringing this up. That then you get Mortuary Assistant Definitive Edition. Like I'm telling you guys, like a definitive edition, a remaster, or whatever comes out like constantly now. It's not the special thing that it used to be. Fate Stay Night Remaster comes out this week. Yo, like literally a remaster comes out every single week. So
Sam Max has a remaster coming out.
Yeah, they've been doing that constantly. They've been remastering all those 7 Max games now, so it's like, that's the thing is, unfortunately, unless you're a big deal, which, again, Braid is kind of a big deal for back then for, our generation of gamers, but not for the generation past us, right? They don't care about that stuff. And I just don't think that there's nostalgia sells, but I just don't think there's enough nostalgia to warrant the amount of remasters that come out constantly, and just I feel like you never hear them talked about at all. And it's like, okay, yeah, especially when you get like Nintendo coming out with remasters all the time, or you get Sony doing a second bite of the apple on PC with their big games,
right?
Or whatever. It's like people only have enough money to go around, and I think, especially now when we're in a very constrained time period, these remasters perhaps are not like the best thing to go about, unless you know for sure it is something that people have been clamoring for,
right?
And then thus they will buy it. But I hate hearing that. I hate that Braid remaster did not do well, but I think we also shouldn't be that surprised.
No, not surprised at all. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed, and especially these remasters that come out. And yes, this added the commentary stuff, but where it's just the one game, and it's like, okay, it's fine. I mean, they did a lot of extra work to this, but I want to just throw something out there. Microsoft, if you're somehow listening to this and you're not tired of us, Rare Replay I thought did really well on the Xbox One. Can we get an Xbox Arcade Replay to help out all these little indie developers that are still trying to get going? So you get Super Meat Boy and you can get Braid and Limbo and all these games that really made Xbox Arcade that fantastic time years ago, just in one giant collection. And then each of these little indie guys can get a little bit of kickback for it. And now that's something I'll buy. Because then you get a ton of games like you did with Rare Replay, and you put the history of the games in it. I think that would be fantastic. But yeah, disappointing that this just did not.
And I think it's also that even though the 360 store just shut down, Braid is available to be bought, right? The original Braid. So, or on some service probably or something. So it's like, it's not one of these remasters where it's like, okay, I can't buy it unless I buy this version, or it's not a significant upgrade to what already exists. So unless you just want to play it on Switch, for example, or something that's not on. But I think that's a very small number, and unfortunately, it sucks to see that happen. But since I was already talking about the games that are coming out this week, I guess really quick, so we can get out of here. Both of us have to go to work. What else is coming out this week? As I mentioned, the Fate Stay Night remaster is coming out. The Creatures of Ava, which is coming to Game Pass, PC and Xbox, is that game that they showed off at the showcase. That's like about taking control of different animals or whatever, and carrying them through this like adventure game or whatnot. It looks really interesting. I might try it out. It's on Game Pass. So if that kind of struck your fancy, go for it. Cat Quest 3, which honestly, Cat Quest 2 is really good. So
I need to get back into Cat Quest 2. They put 1 and 2 both on the PlayStation Plus stuff, and I platinumed Cat Quest 1 and got into Cat Quest 2, which was harder and a little bit more difficult to progress, and I kind of got burnt out from the second one. But both of those games are fantastic, so I'm excited to get into Cat Quest 3 at some point.
Yeah, this one's a full-on RPG with like ship combat, so this one maybe even more up our alleys than the usual. You also get Deathbound as well, which is like a multiplayer like co-op action adventure game, so that might interest some people. There's also a demo available too for people. SteamWorld Heist 2, which is another game that I really like. SteamWorld Heist. So I might look into this here. It looks like it's getting really good reviews as well. So if you like that first game, definitely go check this out for sure. And that Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue that it's going to be on Switch Online. So if you have the GBA Switch Online, you can go pick that up too. And you know what's coming after that, Randy? We talked about it earlier. Madden, is coming out. So
no, thank you.
Yeah, the same here. No, thank you. They keep trying to push you with that. Oh, we made a big deal about franchise mode this year or whatever. It's like, no, you didn't. You didn't do much there. They keep telling me about Roger Goodell in the draft. That's only not going to sell me on that. But thank you, Randy, for being on this week. I appreciate you. Mark should be back next week.
One of these times I'll get on and not have to talk about layoffs.
Yeah, hopefully not. Hopefully one of these times Randy will be on an episode that's not like a special one, and we'll get to talk about that. That's not about layoffs. And until next week, everybody, hope if you enjoyed what you heard or watched, go like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. Go like and subscribe Bad Brackets on YouTube as well. Help out Randy there. And I'll see you next week. Later.